And we're live. Thanks for tuning in, folks, to another installment. What we're going to talk about is basically what is Nursphere? What's the purpose of it? How did we start this company? And who benefits the most with this product? And I would say basically starting from 2020, I was actually creating some cookies. I was baking some cookies in the oven, and I didn't realize that my arm actually touched the inside of the rack that was holding the cookies. And then so not knowing that I had second degree burn, the next morning I woke up and I noticed that my arm was swelling. And this was like a second degree burn according to the stages of burning. So what I did was I looked around the house to see if there was something like a bandage that I could wrap around. And then I thought about it for a while. And I said, you know what? This is going to be very painful. Removing, adding new bandage, then removing that, throwing that away. It's just going to be a tedious process. And what scared me the most is when I would go to sleep and there was nothing to protect my arm from a collision or something, because I don't know where my arms go when most people, we don't know where our arms go when we fall asleep. So I quickly thought of some goggles. And I said to myself, well, maybe if I use the goggles, which is there's a space between the eye lens and the frame around the goggle itself. And there's like an airspace. And because goggles do have air vents and things like that, I said, this might be a good idea. So here I got these goggles, got some duct tape, and I basically wrapped the tape around the goggles to where it connect the other side of the goggle to where it completely closed up the lenses within the arm. And so after I had this huge device, which was basically goggles wrapped around my wound, I was able to fall asleep. Although it looked crazy, but I was able to fall asleep and not worry about ramming my arm against any part of the bed while I was, of course, asleep. And then when I woke up, and I noticed that, hey, this is healing really nicely. So what I did was I opened up the goggles and added disinfectant on the wound itself. Then I closed it back up, and I basically worked through the whole day with goggles around my arm. And sure enough, within 7 days, I was able to remove the goggles. I was able to wear the goggles through the 7 days. I didn't bother it, didn't tamper with it. And it had plenty of air going through and sunlight was getting through. So I was going through my normal course of the day, and within 7 days, my arm was healed. And at that point, I said, this is something that the world needs. This is something that completely removes the notion of having something interrupt or touch your wound while it was healing. So basically, after working on a prototype and trying to get the size correct for most superficial wounds, we came up with a dome. And this dome basically serves the same purpose that those goggles has performed, and we've seen some great results out of those domes being applied to ordinary everyday people. And the beautiful thing about it is that the dome itself never touches the wound at all, and also it's clear. The domes are made clear, so they're transparent. In other words, so you can see exactly the results of the healing. It's not like a Band-Aid where it's covered up and it's touching your wound. and you constantly have to lift the bandage up, which can be very painful because it can grab the hair follicles of your, of the area where you're not affected, but it still pull up those hair follicles along the line of checking, and you don't know what's going on once it's closed up. So there's no monitoring with the Band-Aids. And also there's not much air gets to that wound. Not much sunlight gets to that wound. So all of these factors have a tendency of having wounds heal much slower when it's being touched and disturbed constantly. And so Nursphere really took away all of those kinds of problems that's inherent within Band-Aids. And then now we found out that these Band-Aids are actually poisonous to our wounds. And these Band-Aids also have some serious problems, according to a number of scientists that's saying that these chemicals can cause cancer. But not from that perspective alone. Nursphere avoids any of these kinds of issues and some of these newer issues related to the chemicals that are being used to make these bandages. So since 2020, Nursphere had been available, and so we have made it pretty much open to everyone to buy Nursphere as a option. And this is something that we never seen before. There's nothing on the market like it. And we hope that more people will learn that it's best to not disturb the healing process of your injury or wound, especially when we think that because it's a small wound, that there couldn't be any problems that can be generated that can make it into a bigger problem. So yeah, we treat these superficial wounds with very seriousness, and Nursphere is one of the first innovations to resolve some of the problems that are associated with ordinary bandages. And so we're going to continue to give updates and news, and maybe have some discussions from the scientific community to talk more about the immune system and how it's good to leave things alone, leave your wounds alone and let them heal. But that's it for now. I hope you tune in to Nursphere channel. We'll be here. We'll be answering questions, and hopefully when we get the live stream, we can get that going really, so we can have everyone participate in a discussion that's centered around health. We're going to have a lot of fun too along the way, and we're going to learn something. Thank you for tuning in.